Pastor Karl, you must have something interesting to say on the matter.
Yeah, in a sense, I kind of feel like I'm the odd one out on this. Oh, does that mean speak closer? I feel a little bit like, yeah, that's good. Like the odd one out on this panel. Like I've heard a lot of, this kind of talk has happened over the last few years, especially in Parliament. I was recently spent a day in Parliament listening to some of the debates that went by, but I've been practicing Christian ministry, primarily in gay and lesbian communities for about 5 years now, and a lot of where I'm coming out of isn't about the political theory or any of that sort of stuff, but it's about people that I've met and relationships that I've seen develop, and the experiences that I've seen people go through. So I guess anything that I say today is going to be framed by a lot of those things. The most prominent experience out of which I'll probably be speaking is that often when people are thrown out of churches or thrown out of families and become homeless, which is an extremely high percentage of young gay and lesbian people who come out, one of the first things they do is they visit an MCC, or that's the church that I'm at, and they talk to people about their experience of how saying that they were gay or saying that they were lesbian actually split their family in half. Their parents and their uncles were all screaming at each other about all of this sort of stuff that we're talking to each other about, and they weren't comfortable in their home anymore, and their church, you know, said that you're welcome as long as you repent, but they didn't feel welcome there anymore, and they would come and didn't feel like they were a part of the community. So I'm aware of the fact that the debate that's happening about same-sex marriage is actually being very damaging to a lot of families and a lot of communities that I've experienced. I've also experienced churches. I have a lot of friends in different churches, particularly Uniting Church, Baptist, Anglican, Catholic, who are involved in their churches, and almost every church in Australia at the moment is being ripped down the middle over this issue. The Salvation Army was all over the news earlier this year. And what I was doing was talking to a lot of people who are in the Salvation Army who are gay and lesbian, who are not politically active people, they're just trying to live out their faith, and they're getting caught in the crossfire of that discussion as well. The final thing, the thing that's been most convincing for me, and the reason that I don't believe in same-sex marriage, I don't believe in opposite-sex marriage, I just believe in marriage for everyone. The reason for that is because I've seen a lot of really healthy, thriving families, including my own, including members of my congregation who are in same-sex couples or opposite-sex couples, many of whom have children that came through surrogacy, children that came from previous marriages, and I don't know, I can't see them as being anything other than married families. I believe that marriage is part of human nature. I believe that it's intimately connected to what it means to be created in the image of God. And I think that same-sex and opposite-sex couples have been getting married ever since the origin of creation. And we're having a debate now about whether or not we should recognise that. And in a sense, that's a bit of a formality that's a few thousand years late in coming, but it's about time that we just saw the reality of families and human beings that live in our community that are married and just need that recognition from their churches, from their families, and from their state about who they are. So that's me, that's all I've got to say.
Question: what say does the church have in a secular society like Australia? Patrick? What say does the church have in a secular society like Australia?
Well, the church, like other organisations, like other faiths, has a right, like every one of us here has, to express our views on certain matters of national importance and critical matters of public morality and different things like this. And I think it's important because all of us have an interest in the well-being of the common good of our nation. So the church, like every other organisation, should be willing to propose, to engage with the best reasons out there. I don't think people of faith should feel like, or should have to feel like that they have to propose their views in a way that only people within the same church would understand. And I think the Catholic Church itself doesn't believe that its views are only accessible to people who believe what the Pope, listen and read the Bible, that it believes its views are accessible to people of goodwill, people who reflect about the nature of certain realities like marriage and family. and it spends most of its time proposing those views in a way that is accessible. Like that. So I think the role of the church, like every other organisation, every other people, should be able and willing to express their views in forms of democratic way that marks our society.
Thanks, Patrick. I will add, if at any point you would like to ask a question to the panellists, raise your hand, and Diane will approach you with the microphone, and we'll obviously wait till the panellists finish talking and you can ask your question. But in the meantime, Pastor Karl, what role does the church have in marriage debate in a secular society?
Well, my church doesn't have much political power. When you say the church, it probably depends to a large degree what church you're talking about. How much money you've got. If a church is very wealthy, they probably have a lot of political say. If MCC had that much political say, we might actually have marriage rights by now. But we don't have that. I think that, I don't know, we came to a point in our society where we said there was religious freedom. I don't know to what extent that actually was the truth for a lot of different people. We certainly don't have the religious freedom to get married when we want to. But I think churches still actually put a lot of clout, and it's not very out in the open sometimes.
Thank you. Huh?
Yeah, look, I agree with Patrick that churches should be free to express their views about how marriage should be defined. I think that's only healthy. But it would be unconstitutional for the state to define marriage in a way that was meant to reflect religious values. That's actually expressly prohibited by our constitution, and thank God for it. Because if that were not the case, you could define any number of things to suit the Judeo-Christian ethic and to oppress minority religions. And I think that is something that most people can agree is wrong and is unwelcome in a secular society. And yet you do still hear this quite persistent argument that because marriage is, it's not defined in the Bible, but because it's referred to in particular ways in the Bible, and because the Catholic Church teaches certain values about marriage, that should be reflected in public statute. But the reality is, marriage is both a religious sacrament and also a civil public institution. And whenever you're going to discriminate against a group of people in defining that institution, you need powerful, compelling reasons to do it, and they're just not.
Dr. Van Gent, marriage, apparently, every third marriage in Australia, I'm told, ends in divorce. Is marriage worth fighting for? Is it a dying institution?
Marriage is the social effort to impose some order upon our otherwise chaotic behaviour. Remember, if you have no marriage culture, no marriage laws, we're mammals, we're still going to mate and breed, we can't help ourselves, so it's still going to happen. The choice is between allowing that to run amok and let men in particular follow their more instinctive tendencies rather than their higher tendencies of loyalty and faithfulness. Then all you end up with is a society with far more women carrying the baby and coping on their own, and you end up with a whole lot more children who have no father in their life. And that leads to a very large increase in social breakdown and crime and all the other problems. Now that is what you get if a society gives up the effort to inspire young couples to take on this grand life task, this demanding project of creating, as the great anthropologist said, establishing a household, bearing and raising children. It's a huge project, and that is the one that gives stability and culture to our world. So yes, when you have every third marriage ending in divorce, that's, that leaves room for improvement. It's much better than certain past eras. It's less good than certain past eras, but it's never going to be perfect. The whole thing is it's a continual work in progress. You've got to understand then why we want marriage at all. It's essentially to help keep men and women together so that a child can have a best chance of both a mum and a dad in their life.
I think Diane's got a question over here from the man at the...
Yeah, I was just wondering...
Sorry, do you want to mention what your name is and who you're addressing your question to?
Hi, my name's Karl. I'm addressing my question to David. My question is sort of, apart from the genitalia, what is the difference between a mother and a father when it comes down to it?
Just give yourself 10 seconds to think back on your own relationship with your mum and your dad. Profound difference, of course, and as general practitioners we know this all the time, and we see the profound influence and importance that the mother-child bond in particular means to a baby. The power of, for example, breastfeeding for establishing psychological security in the developing infant is deep, but deeper than we realise. Let alone, of course, the early intrauterine bonding. But to continue that bonding from birth through to recognition of the mother's face and her voice, the breastfeeding, the mammalian touch and connection, and the unique eye contact, physical way that a mother relates to a baby, which is different to men. It's just simply different. That's just a mammalian thing. So you are getting that deep sort of bonding and psychological security from the mother that you don't get from the dad in the early days. Later on, we as dads give a whole lot to our kids that the mum doesn't. I've got 3 boys. You know, we muck in and do all our things together that my wife's not remotely interested in, but all the sport and all the chess, she can't play chess, all the things we do together, right? The sport, the outings, the general mucking around. Plus, if you have kids and you've got to think ahead, you simply need the big growly voice of the dad at times to keep 3 boys in line so that they don't muck up with their mother. Likewise, you need the mother's comfort and security to reassure them when dad's been a bit gruff. You just have different inputs to our kids, as you will learn when you're a dad.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Bateman. What do you reckon, Pat?
Well, the first thing is there are plenty of gay guys with growly voices, so I don't know how compelling that is as a reason not to allow this group of people to marry. I find the whole argument baffling. I mean, you say you want to look after the welfare of children, as you should. You say that the best way to do that is for a child to have 2 parents. And you also say that marriage is the best institution to keep people together. So then what do you say to all the children of gay couples out there that can't get married? You are denying them the chance to get married, an institution that is more likely to keep them together, that is more likely to make them happy and productive parents, and give those kids the best chance at life. It's completely contradictory. I don't understand.
Zach, if I could just respond. I can see why Patrick was your champion debater here. He's just set up 4 red herrings in a row. I've never said that we're after the welfare of children. I said we're after the birthright of a child to his own mother and his own father. We're not talking social welfare, we're talking life rights. We're talking about the deep things, the deep relationships of life, not welfare. And I'm not saying that marriage is there to keep people together, I'm saying it's to keep a man and a woman together so a child can have a mum and a dad.
If your objection is to the birthright, the right to have 2 parents, why are you opposing marriage equality as opposed to IVF, surrogacy or adoption? What's it got to do with marriage?
I'm not saying to have 2 parents, I'm saying to have a mother and a father. And then, as I explained in my preliminary notes, there are situations where a child can't have a mum and a dad. That's when we move in with damage control. That's when we move in with adoption, if we have to. Because we've got to try and salvage a situation and do the best we can for the kids and give them the closest thing they can have to a mother and a father in their life. Now that is damage control. But same-sex marriage and surrogacy, which is what goes together in this compound right, means that you are deliberately, premeditatedly sitting around your coffee table and saying, we 2 men and our surrogate womb friend, we will create a little girl or a little boy in the sure foreknowledge that she will never have a mother, that she will never know the most profound relationship in human existence. We will do that because we want a baby of our own, and we will not get the consent of this child to live without a mother. We will simply decree it. Now, if you do that, tell me how that willful decision is any better than the decision to take children away from their mother because they were teenage mothers, as we are now ruining today. We are now having a Senate committee looking into how we can apologise to these babies who were taken away from their teenage mother. How is it different to what we are now regretting, and that is anonymous sperm donors, children created who can never know who their dad was, who are now grieving and angry over what was done to them without their consent? Now, how is it different to the removal of babies from Aboriginal families, I mean, these are examples of government decisions violating the deep bonds of life. And same-sex marriage is heralding a new, a different, but an equally harmful form of stolen generation for a new generation. It's something we haven't tried before, but once again, we will decree that a child will not have a mother in her life to gratify adults.
Thanks, Dr.